I'll be sharing a bit about how we at Grand Vision incorporated the GPT technology and the reasoning behind it, some of the struggles we faced, and how we're overcoming them. Feel free to just pop over a question, whether just speak out or type it into the chat. Very much open to have this as an interactive session and share more of the knowledge presented. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so I'm Viresh Narayan. I lead the global CRM division at Grand Vision. A bit about myself, I really much enjoy just doing stuff, creating and thinking, very much at the intersection to create impact. Next to my day job, I'm also a community leader in the Netherlands for the Marketing Cloud community. And I just enjoy tinkering of new elements. About Grand Vision, we are a retailer in eyewear. We span 4 continents with over 40 countries. We have quite a lot of brands and quite a larger footprint that we deal with. So that also means the sizability means a lot of headache in challenges that we need to face in trying to build everything that we're building. Perhaps you haven't heard about the brand Grand Vision. Perhaps some of the brands that are part of our group might ring a bell. Oakley, Ray-Ban, and some of the other brands. This isn't even all of the brands that are part of our group. I just didn't want to make 10 slides with all of the brands. So that's quite sizable that we have to work with. So a little bit about the Marketing Cloud context before I'm going to zoom in on ChatGPT and how we integrated that to give you a bit of context on the challenges we're working with. Keeping in mind, we name our Marketing Cloud Grand Vision Marketing Cloud, so GVMC, very much from the point of view that we work with a lot of internal end users. And we see with the end users that they're really part of the brand and DNA they chose for, so Grand Vision. So in terms of adoption, user adoption of the Marketing Cloud suite, we saw the moment we renamed it and rebranded it into Grand Vision, the user adoption all of a sudden started to increase because people started to feel connected with the application instead of a separate application that they have to work in. A little bit about the Marketing Cloud footprint that we're dealing with. So we have 30 business units. 26 of the brands are live in, so that means 26 business units. And we have 4 business units ready to deploy. In terms of volume, we do about 200 million emails a year, over 200 million emails a year. And we do over 50 million SMSs per year. Because we deliver on 4 continents this capability, it also means we need to deliver from the follow the sun principle support. The moment I'm at sleep or go to bed or I'm not at work, it should not be dependent on me if we can or cannot deliver support. So we have various teams across the globe that make sure that if something needs a form of support or deliverability, we can deliver it within just a couple of hours. In this entire stack, we have an integration with our Salesforce Service Cloud. We use WhatsApp both in Marketing Cloud as Service Cloud. We've piloted the SMS capability of Salesforce Marketing Cloud, which was a fantastic application. Because we didn't use the channel SMS before this. We also learned that because it's such a good application, it's also very expensive given the volume that we do. So we've developed our own SMS application in Marketing Cloud. I showed that last week, so I won't focus on it this week. And what's also good to know is we use Advertising Studio and we have built our own custom CDP to do all of the heavy data work needed to make all of this happen. Let's talk a little bit about the Center of Excellence that we've built. So we've built a Center of Excellence with a support team around it. It's about 25 people. We work in an agile way of working. So that means every 2 weeks we commit towards a certain scope and we deliver that. And we have various stakeholders. On the one side, we have the local markets that want various things, and all of the local markets, they vary per team size, how they structured, what capabilities they have. And on the other side, we have innovation that we want to move through. Ultimately, it's focused around incremental value creation. And value can be monetary, so money, but it can also be capability-wise, because not everything you can expense it in money. We need to standardize a lot of stuff because to do automation, we need to have standardization. We try a lot. We've built a culture of trial and error where we're not afraid for the errors, but we're very much focused on learning, which allows us to learn from technology like ChatGPT, other generative large language models that help us to truly facilitate the complexity that we're after. Some of the challenges we face in the team. So on the one side, we have over 30 operating companies, and nothing there is standardized. So ERP, we have an abundance of those, and none of them commit. Various point of sales systems, a non-standard application landscape. We sell products, so that means we have SKUs, and all the SKUs are not standard. And on the local side, the data quality, it's not great. So those are various challenges. And on the other side, we have variables like we represent brands that have been built over the last 10, 20, even longer years. So that means a lot of emotions, a lot of values, a lot of brand positioning going on. Also the experience we as humans have with those brands, it's very much tailored. The offerings that are per product can be variable. So a lot of complexity around those bits and pieces. Also the regulatory landscape, the tooling landscape, specifications like subscriptions, which is something completely different than what we have to deal with from just pay as you go. The various languages we need to encounter for. I only speak fluently English and Dutch. The rest of the languages do not exist in my brain. So we have a lot of languages we need to deal with as Brown Vision. So in the Center of Excellence, we're very much focused on standardization and scalability, and that's how we view every new thing that we enable. How can we standardize it so we can scale it to deliver it towards our various brands and countries that are going to use it? So let's talk about the actual fun stuff. Salesforce Marketing Cloud GPT. We've built this together with our implementation partner, Salesforce Marketing Cloud Essentials. And it very much came about the challenges we have primarily with content creation. The amount of brands we're dealing with, the amount of content we're dealing with, it's a lot. And zooming into the local CRM teams that are responsible for the content delivery in Marketing Cloud, we see the same kind of cycle going on. They take a lot of time to create a briefing. To create a briefing, there's dependencies between various teams, various stakeholders that have an opinion. So just the time it takes and the feedback it takes to create a briefing, it's already quite lengthy. Sometimes it can be weeks, if not longer. Then if a briefing is created, it goes to whoever needs to create the content. And also there at the content experts, there's team dependencies and the specialists that need to make it there, they don't have enough capacity. So it can go back towards, hey, is this what you meant with the briefing or not? And then once the content is created, then the expert of the Marketing Cloud application in the local team needs to copy and paste that information into Marketing Cloud. And then once the email or SMS or whatever is created, it goes back towards the team who initiated it and like, well, actually, it kind of looks different than what we had in mind. From the concept and from the briefing that we make. So can you make this small adjustment? So all in all, we saw it can take weeks and weeks of time. And throughout those weeks and weeks of time, there's a lot of energy, effort, and friction that goes along with creating content. And you might think, but this is journeys, it's not that difficult, right? So for us, because we built everything at scale, we think about what's the best version we can do. This is an actual welcome and thank you journey that we've standardized. In this journey template, it's 24 touch points that needs to have unique content. that's quite of a lot of content to create, and we haven't even introduced the A/B and multivariate testing in this journey. So imagine if we're going to do A/B and multivariate testing, it can go times X with the amount of touch points you need to create content for. So that's quite a lot. So we're very much looking into, okay, how can we speed up that process to drive more value from the journeys that we have running? So the time to market of a new journey goes faster. And also we help the markets with, okay, what's best practice type of content to create? So next to the content creation, we have two other domains where we see there was a lot of challenge in terms of driving value, where this technology can help us build space. So focusing on the content creation domain, we saw per content piece that about 60 hours per content piece was needed to create it. This goes from initiation, ideation towards actual delivery and implementation. So it's the end-to-end cycle of creating the content. Other than working with a lot of agencies, externals, and you name it, we've done the calculation, how much money do we actually spend from a local point of view and a global point of view in creating all of these various content bits and pieces. And the number that came out of it was quite shocking. So we're like, okay, that's a very healthy amount of money we spent. Then taking a look into the technical knowledge and the challenge we have there. So we've built a center of excellence, which is a hybrid form. And we see that in the local markets, there are people working with the application Marketing Cloud that have never had have to use Marketing Cloud before they join CronVision, which makes sense, right? Marketing Cloud is quite of a pricey application, so not every company has it. So we need to be mindful of people joining the company that don't have experience with it. So I think we all know the application Marketing Cloud. It's a fantastic application, but it can also be quite challenging in terms of interface, coding languages you need to know when you do form of personalization, when you do a bit of more of the advanced elements. So in the knowledge base, we see that roughly about 2 years, the local CRM specialist logically leads towards the next role, whether internally or externally. So maintaining the Salesforce Marketing Cloud technical knowledge, and we're talking sometimes even baseline knowledge, right? It's quite complex. And then taking a look into, okay, how much of the support requests and troubleshooting requests come to us? And we see that roughly 27% of a sprint capacity, so that's a 2-week period, is spent on delivering support and support questions. So that's quite a lot of effort. The support and troubleshooting is done from a center of excellence because, well, we are pretty decent in delivering documentation. We have a full Confluence environment where we every time deliver the baseline documentation, both from a functional point of view as a technical point of view. We also see that our local stakeholders are very busy. They're specialists with a lot of things to do on their plate. So reading documentation, it's not their favorite, which means that their knowledge gap will be there in terms of, hey, what have we actually delivered from a CronVision Marketing Cloud point of view, and how can they use it? And then that also means that the support we deliver through the Center of Excellence can be quite challenging because, well, Marketing Cloud itself can be quite challenging. So what did we see in how can we go about it? What is the opportunity here? Ultimately, it comes down to the main driver for this GPT capability is save time, because all the time we save, that by default means a lot of money we save on these 3 domains. So content creation, technical knowledge, and support and troubleshooting. Those are the pillars in the business case we've drafted about this to introduce the GPT capability. So taking a look into what does this application actually do, and this is always exciting that the slide does not load. So let me try to reload this. Sorry for that small technical hiccup. That's interesting. little bit sad because I made quite a cool movie about it, how it works for us. Sorry for that.
So, I mean, Varish, I mean, so last time you told me that we have some tool which you could showcase and we can leverage for ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
For generating content. So how we can get that tool?
Yeah, so this is a clip I took this morning for one of our brands, and you see the pick list on the left side, where you as a CRM marketer, you can be responsible for multiple brands within Grand Vision. So we need to make sure everyone picks the right brand they're using for. Then you see the language that you want to create the content for, because the brand can be in many languages. And then what we've also standardized is, okay, what's the text style that you want to create it in? Because sometimes you want it a bit more fun, or you want to personalize, or you want to make a how-to and go on. And then you have the Cialdini principles, so influencing principles to make the textual content. And what you see in just seconds, and this is an example of the subject line generator, it creates 3 versions for you as a marketeer. And a subject line to create that, we saw that it used to take 1 hour and 26 minutes on average on our global scale. So we've brought that time down from that amount of time to now just maximum. Well, let's say the marketeer still needs to rework it a little bit and maybe change a bit of the wording or change an icon, let's say a minute or 2. So that's an enormous amount of time that's being saved in creating this. So we go about this piece by piece. Very much have to say thank you towards our partner who made this application. If you want to play with the application yourself and have a bit of access to it, whip out your phone now, scan this QR code, because you will get access to it and you can use it yourself to understand it and see how it works. Yeah, let me zoom in a little bit more about all of the capabilities we've built into the application. So in the challenge space we saw, so both on a content point of view, on a troubleshooting point of view, and on a knowledge point of view, those are the domains we've developed the application about. So we call it generators for content based on email, SMS, the various channels we have, and then specialized into Marketing Cloud, the subject line and pre-header kept at the max amount of characters, which is optimized. And that on top of that, we build a layer which calculates how much does each channel cost us to send a message about, and what's the likelihood that someone will have a conversion or micro conversion. And based on that, we optimize the Marketing Cloud journey, where in which path someone should receive form of content. Then we take a look into the various technological challenges that we're faced. So we call those the creators. So our local marketeers sometimes have 0 experience with AMP-script, sometimes they have a little bit of experience, and sometimes they have an abundance of experience. And I don't know about you, but every now and then I'm just screaming at my screen because I cannot figure out for the life of me why there's an error in a piece of code. So the creators module, what those do is very much focusing on, okay, what is it you're trying to build from a functional point of view? And then they will validate the code that you've made. And we're now trying out, hey, but can it also optimize the coding languages for you? So you just have to put in what it is you're trying to make, but also querying data extensions, which can be quite tricky. So we've loaded in our entire data model and all of our data extensions in our technological space. And based on that per market, they now have a SQL model where you just fill in what it is you're trying to attempt for your segments. And then it will create the SQL for you very easily. We've built on top of that a conversational piece. So you just copy paste your code, you load it in, and you select from the drop-down menu, as you saw before, hey, what am I trying to do? And then the module will have an actual conversation which will guiding you through what's going on. So that's on the creator space. And then we move into the knowledge space, because we have built a lot of capabilities and we have a lot of documentation about it. And we see that a lot of people do not like to read documentation. And we see that we have over 27% of our sprint capacity that goes into having these conversations with our local marketeers, with our experts, teaching them, guiding them into, hey, but how can I do XYZ? So instead of raising a support ticket that comes towards our delivery team and sometimes needs to be managed by us, we've made a conversation assistant where you can just type any question. We still monitor the output of it, given that we're relatively in early days of it, but we see that based on the documentation we've created, based on the data model that we've loaded into, and based on the guiding list that we've made out of it, it's really good. So we see that the local marketeers now save a lot of time to try to figure out how to do, sometimes can be as simple as, hey, how can I make a new content block? They ask the question towards the module, they get an answer how to do it in a step-by-step process. So moving a bit further in the more technical space on what's behind all of this, it's not just OpenAI. What we've built in the baseline, it's a configurable layer because we don't want to be dependent on any party, vendor, or partner. We want to be able to be ready for the future. Everything we're building, it needs to be configurable and scalable. So that also means we need to be able to deprecate what in the future might be old. So the first layer, it's a configurable layer where we load in generative large language models such as OpenAI's ChatGPT. We're also using Google's Bard AI. We have developed our own generative large language models based on Grand Vision brands and the brand DNA. On top of that, we built the generative large language model, which is tailored for every brand we face. The reason we do that is the risk we see is that, take, for example, Ray-Ban, which is a big brand, very specific. We cannot afford that the brand of Ray-Ban gets polluted or diluted from an open model where we don't have control over. So we've actually built a layer, a generative large language model, which is trained upon the brand DNA, all of the content we've created in the past, which has been approved, and also the guidelines on, okay, how can we make sure that it stays within this lane, making sure that the, it's called ghosting variable, does not exceed the parameters we put in. What do I mean with that? This technology is very strong. It also means that sometimes it can produce an answer which looks fantastically real, but it's not real. And we are representing brands that we cannot afford to make a mistake with. So that's why we've built our own closed system. And then on top of that, we've built our own proprietary architecture, which separates the various generative large language models like ChatGPT, Bard AI, and all the various bits and pieces we use from the data input altogether. So that means the loop that you see in the circle above, it's the local marketeer who goes in towards the interface, as you just saw in the interface integrated in Marketing Cloud. They type in what type of content, or even type in, they select what type of content they need, whether that being a subject line, whether that being an email body, whether that being an SMS body, whether it being an SMS link. They type in, they select, the brand and the language. If they want to have an influencing principle from Cialdini to optimize conversion, they can select that. And they can type in a small short briefing for, hey, what's the purpose of this campaign or this piece of content? And what you see is that it immediately gets an output from it, which they then introduce into the asset into Marketing Cloud. So that's a little bit about the technique behind it. Yeah, a little bit about why do we do this? It's very much focused on, okay, how do we drive impact? On the one side, it's content creation. We need to be super, super efficient about this. And it's about improving our knowledge and insights. And how can we make sure we learn more and more about this? So we see that this layer of generative large language models, which are trained and tailored towards our data and what we're comfortable with, which is not open for the public. So it's in a very much a safe environment where we're not worried about, hey, but what if something as an output is out there where we're not happy with? We've tackled that because, well, again, it's the technological layer that we've built it differently than just ChatGPT. It's very much a closed data ecosystem where we train it upon the technology for the output there. Yeah, so a bit of a recap of, okay, what is Salesforce Marketing Cloud GPT that we've built with our technological partner? So we have a couple of generators, the subject line, the pre-header specifically for Marketing Cloud tailored towards the max amount of characters. So the marketeer no longer have to think or calculate, hey, is this long enough or too long? Is this optimized for conversion? Is this best practice for email marketing in this case? So all of that briefing sits in our generative large language model. So the marketer only has to focus around the specific campaign and deliverable of in this case, eyewear that we're focusing on has to do. Same with email content, whether that being a header, whether it being a body of a text or guiding text or call to action, it generates it for you based on the drop-down scene. Same with the various other channels. So we use SMS and WhatsApp quite heavily. So we've integrated the textual generators for them. And then on the other side, we have the technological space where we see that a lot of our local CRM experts need to have a bit of more guidance. So we save a lot of time with the MScript, SSGS, and SQL creators, and also the troubleshooting modules. We call the conversational piece, we call it that we like to make a little bit of a laugh every now and then. We call it our AI assistant. So it's very much the piece where you can just have a conversation digital and you wouldn't know that it's an AI because it's as good and sometimes even better than the human being in providing you the answer. Yeah, that's yeah, very much the results that we're getting out of it. We see that the moment we've developed it, the efficiency just increased amazingly. Interesting question about the sentiment analysis. We are playing around with the data and insights module right now. So trying to figure out, hey, how can we truly read sentiment? What are the parameters for that? We do that in a very small scale at the moment. So we're trying that out together with our technological partner and our data partner, because ultimately what we see is that this is a type of complexity where we need to be really mindful. So sentiment analysis modules definitely on our roadmap. We've already have a module for it in SFMC GPT, where we pilot it and try it out. We're not ready to release that towards all of our brands and the various CRM managers we have across the globe, but very much we're trying this out. The roadmap I have and things that we want to develop, and it's just crazy. It's very much every time choosing, hey, what do we want to go for? Yeah, in terms of roadmap, we now are quite advanced with Marketing Cloud GPT. And we're now tailoring towards our sales department, our service department. With the sentiment analysis, we've developed a separate application called Data and Insights GPT. That's where we run it, and that's connected towards the Marketing Cloud GPT module. So very much, we started with this thing 3.5 months ago, maybe 4 now. So it's very much still quite fresh and learning every day, learning every new period on, okay, what can we do with this? And how can we truly drive value out of all of this? Yeah. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Hey, thank you, Viresh. I think there's one question. Did you also develop sentiment analysis modules?
Yeah, so what I shared just a couple minutes ago, we have developed some sentiment analysis modules. What what we see with those sentiment analysis modules is the amount of data and data complexity that sits behind it. We're very much tweaking and tailoring what we are learning from it yet. So we now have 2 smaller brands that we're trying the sentiment analysis modules out with. We've developed the sentiment analysis module 3 weeks ago. So that's still very, very fresh. And we're not ready to release it to all of our brands and CRM teams, but it's definitely something we're working on. Yeah.
Thank you, Videsh. There's one more question, Videsh, from Milton. Did you use the API or chart or any open APIs to build this tool?
So we use a combination. So we started our first POC purely on the API of OpenAI. We've learned an enormous amount of that, but we also learned that it's not good enough for what we're doing, which has to do with the risk that we have with, again, right, brands like Ray-Ban, Oakley, all of the other brands. They're very, very much unique towards what's the experience. So we took that lesson and we've tailored it with, it's probably easier to show that with the technical slide. So that's this one. So we've tailored that with, okay, what is our own generative large language model? So we've actually developed our own large language model to tailor the various open sources we have with our own data, with our own brand DNA, with our own language models, which are generative. So in just a very short amount of window of time, we've created our own generative large language models, which sit on top. And those 2 layers, they collaborate together. So these 2 bottom layers, they collaborate together to make this product. So it's a lot of technical, you could call it headache or you can call it challenge, to make it really easy for our CRM managers. And then perhaps to zoom in a bit more in on your layer, Milton. So all of these layers, they're connected through API. We don't use ETL process. Everything is built from a microservice point of view, making sure we can truly scale what it is we're doing.
Thank you, Videsh. It's excellent. Anyone has any other questions? And definitely I can share the PPT with everyone after this session. So keep looking our YouTube channel, then where I'm going to add the link over there, and then you can able to download it as well.
And Milton, for indeed, why SQL? Because to connect the data extensions, we have just an abundance of data extensions. We need to write various SQL queries. And for us as a center of excellence, that's quite easy. We know how to do that. But for our local marketeers or someone who's just started out working at CronVision or doesn't have that much experience with just Marketing Cloud and SQL and the baseline, it's quite difficult for them to have that growth curve and how do you do that. So the use case there was, okay, we see that the amount of time spent both from questions that we receive from our local marketeers and from the time they spend trying to figure out how to do a SQL query. We thought, hey, it's easier if we train the model towards all of the data specified for market. So we took quite a lot of data to uptrain our modules into these coding languages, specify down towards the actual use cases of CronVision. So it also means that there's no ghosting happening in the output that it creates. If you take, for example, OpenAI and you try to have that write some form of M script or SSJS or some SQL, it produces quite decently, but it also makes quite a lot of mistakes. Because we've tailored it with our own generative large language model and we've tailored it towards the data set that we're working with, it's very much tailored towards the Marketing Cloud instance of CronVision, so it doesn't make those mistakes.
Thank you, Videsh. Anyone has any other questions? All right. Thank you, Viresh, for your session. It's really wonderful. We've learned a lot on this. I'll get in touch with you for getting your PPT and share it with all other people. Thank you so much once again. And this is one of the brilliant session, and we are ending with our bootcamp. Such a great session by Viresh. And thank you so much, Viresh, for joining with us today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.